Um, all of a sudden, I wanted to try Docker and to see how easy it is to install. And it does seem like easy to install. So all you have to do is basically just go to the page and go to docs, and there's a get started there, and just follow the instructions how to install. And since I'm using Windows, I go to Windows, and you actually have to install WSL first. That is the Windows system in Linux, I believe. So there's this link over here. Yeah, so yeah, just follow the Windows subsystem for Linux. So you just follow the instructions. Basically, it's pretty straightforward. Go to your command prompt or PowerShell with the administrator and then install it. And basically just wait for it to be installed, to wait for the Ubuntu, which is the default Linux distribution. Wait for that to be installed and set up your username and password, and after that you are good to go. And then you have to go back here to Docker and then continue installing the Docker. So once you download the Docker desktop for Windows, you just have to run it and install. And once installed, you run it. So yeah, so after you install the Docker desktop, you can run it, and this is the what it looks like. Actually, you'll be going to a home page first, where you have the option to run a tutorial. Basically, creates a sample container for you. And because as you can see, we have a sample container here. I haven't really played with it, but anyways, I'm thinking of creating my own one. My own container using Node.js server, probably the HTTP server, the API server, and I'm planning to maybe create a Go application that will actually communicate with that server. So yeah, so that's the next step. So I have a Visual Studio Code already, which by default, by requirement, you need to install Node.js. So I don't need to install it. What I need actually is when you go to the docs, to get started, the guides, get started. There's a simple application here that you can copy just to to run a web server. We'll just copy that to the Visual Studio Code. Here's my Visual Studio Code. So I copy the code from Node.js. Basically create a folder there. We have sample web server and Node.js, and then we create a new file, app.js, and then run the Node application like so, JS, and that will actually create a server for us. And then you can just go to the server just to verify if it's working. Basically, it will just return a hello world. It's the our Node.js web server. So when you go to that IP address there, it will actually display the hello world. Okay, lastly, I decided to use Express, which is it says here, a minimalist web framework for Node.js. So basically, it provides you, libraries that you can use to speed up your development, like web applications, API, and all this stuff. Anyways, I'm interested on the API library because I'm planning to create a API web server for this one, for my Node.js application. So I'm gonna install that, and also plus I don't have to write the code from scratch, no code, right? So I'll just go to more examples here, and they have a web service here that I can actually base my web service as well. Just probably simplify this further, maybe. Also for the Express, they have this Express application generator that actually create an application skeleton for you, which is the reason why I went for Express, just to get my application code started quickly. So I'll try this. Running npx Express generator will actually give you this boilerplate code. You can see on the left side, there's a node modules, and you have your app.js, which is you already have an initial default code here, that sets up the routes, etc. So yeah, this is my first time using Express, so not really familiar with it, but it looks like, should be, as long as you know the concepts about routes and everything, you should be good. Anyways, what's really important here is you also have the package.json file. So I got our web API server working quickly. So basically, I created a new file, index.js, from our generated code via the Express generator. So basically, added that file and actually made a few changes here and there. I make sure I am requiring Express here properly, and also on the www file under the bin folder, I have to make sure I am using the index, not the app, because that is the default. So yeah, instead of this app program to be executed, we want our web API server here to execute. So and default port is 3000 for now, and you can change that if you want. But anyways, so yeah, I think that's the only thing I did change. And yeah, so to run that, just npm start. And once started, you just go to the local site with port 3000 and run our APIs. Right now, our API will be like these guys here: API users, API repos, and API. You can specify specify a specific user here. So basically, this is the sample code that we got from Express. I didn't change anything here. It's also using API key here. So yeah, it's just pretty straightforward code. Nothing really hard to understand there. So this is our web API server. So if you just go to the site, just as this, like this one, and it will actually tell you. Sorry, I can't find that because you have to specify the API, because this is our API server. So like that one, like if you want to get the users, just call that API, and voila, and you have a list of users returned to you. I was able to create a Docker container quickly. So yeah, so based on the documentation from the Docker site, you just need to add a Docker file here and put in some instructions. I actually copied instructions from their site. But I did change some of the values, like for example, the work directory. I pointed it to my working directory, which is actually sample web server -node.js. And of course, I need to npm install to install the dependencies and make sure my node command will actually run our main app, which is actually index.js. So yeah, so those are the things that I changed. So the next step would be to create a Docker image by using the Docker build command. So here you can see in the terminal here, I have an option -t, which actually to name your image server. So I named it sample API server, and then at the end of the command is a dot, basically telling the Docker build to look for the Docker file on that current directory. So yeah, just run it. Took me like maybe 1 minute to finish creating the image. So once you're done creating the image, the Docker image, next step would be to run it, right? So to run it, use the Docker run command, which is this one. There's an option DP. Basically, it says that to map the port 3000 from your application to the Docker port 3000, basically, so that when you run the Docker, connect to the Docker, you just specify 3000 port. So yeah, and then specify, so the last parameter here is the name of your image that you wanted to run. If you go to your Docker desktop, you will see the sample API server image that you created earlier. So yeah, so it says here it's running and it has a port 3000. So yeah, we can test this by going to our browser and connecting it. So from the browser, navigate to your localhost port 3000, and you'll get this error saying it can find that. Since this is an API server, you specify API server and the API call. We actually use the repos this time. So yeah, and then you'll get the list of repos. So yeah, this is actually we're actually connecting to the Docker container that we just created earlier. So yeah, it's easy. So next step would be actually create the Go application, because that's the original plan. Why Go? Yeah, I mean, I think Go is the preferred language to develop cloud applications. So yeah, I guess there's no better time to learn Go than now, right? Yeah, and I was just curious also as well that Go has a built-in concurrency, and it's also similar to C, which should be easier for me to pick up, right? So yeah, I guess probably that's why it's a preferred language to develop cloud applications, because it can scale. It allows you to scale your applications easily. Yeah. So yeah, we'll try. So right now we're gonna create our first Go application to call our first Docker container, which is actually our first Node.js API server. So everything here is first. Well, I managed to create my first Go application. So yeah, I just follow the instructions from the Go website. Basically, you need to initialize Go, I guess, by running Go mod init, and it will create this, and specifying the name of your application, I guess. But I can provide any more details than that because I'm still new. But anyways, so yeah, and then after that, you create a file. That's where your Go code will reside, your main Go code. So here you can see it's like similar to JavaScript, C#. So you have an import here of library files that we need. One is the HTTP client, so we can send some HTTP requests. A format, which is actually for printing, or like a console log or something like that. And then IO is for reading, writing from and to the stream. So what we're doing here is basically calling the HTTP client library to get a request, and this is actually calling our Docker container that we created earlier. So yeah, and then we get the response and then the error at the same time here in this one statement. So I guess that's the Go syntax there. If there's an error, we print. We get the body, basically, and stores it in this variable body. And then if we get a response, and then we print it, basically. So yeah, it is actually working. To run your Go app, you go to your command prompt, to your directory where you have your Go app source code is, and you just type in Go run, and the directory, which is right now it's current, which is dot. So just run it. And since we are calling our Docker container API server, which is the API users, as you can see, we are actually getting the list of users here. So yeah, it's working.